Okay, hello again everyone. Just another quick video for you, only a short one. I, probably like the rest of you, am sick of all the COVID-19 related news at the moment. I'm not even sure it's that good for us. I think it's actually raising anxiety levels and giving the media a disproportionate amount of attention and or power. But you know, hey, Boris Johnson's ex-journalist, so we'll let him do what he thinks is best. But for us, I want News in Brief to now take on a distinctly non-COVID-19 shape. So to that end, I'm going to have a crack at it. You guys take it from here, play with it, do what you want. So these are the stories we're going to look at today. The first of which, we're going to look at a really funny story that I saw. No one died, so I can say it's funny, not tragic. A really funny story about an ejection from a Rafale fighter jet. So I saw this in the week, but it's been on a lot of the different news feeds. But in Saint-Nazaire, out of a military base, a 64-year-old French civilian was ejected out of a Rafale fighter. So it seems that reading from the reports that he was gifted a flight in a Rafale, much like some UAS students have managed to get in two-seater Typhoons. So he's gone up and he's had all the briefings. He's been taken up in a Rafale by a French military pilot, but this guy is a civilian and he's 64 years old. They've taken him up. Afterwards, he said that he didn't really want it. He was very nervous about it, but it was such a fancy gift, he didn't feel he could turn it down. So he's gone up on this trip. The guy has pulled vertical and put reheat in. He's panicked, reached for something to grab hold of, and he's grabbed the ejection seat handle between his legs, pulled it, and poof, he's gone out the back. Landed safely in a field. It's covered in a lot of newspapers, but I haven't found any footage of the incident. But quite interesting. But it raises a couple of questions for me. So the first question for me is, why on earth is a 64-year-old civilian flying in a £70 million fighter jet? It just makes no sense at all. Now, I know we take passenger flights on the Tutor, and I know passenger flights happen for celebrities and people now and again. But reading the various reports, it seems very much like they paid for him to do this. So it's just bizarre, the French Air Force making money out of these little trips. Now, this actually happened quite a while ago, March last year, but the safety report has only just come out. I would have looked at it, but I don't speak French, apologies. Maybe one of you does and can find the accident report online, because I would love to know what it says about the why fly a 64-year-old rich civilian? Why? There's just no need, there's no military purpose to it, unless maybe he's a big wig celebrity or defence contractor or something, but I didn't get that impression from reading the articles. So the very rationale of it, why even fly him, I think is astounding. More interestingly though, the pilot landed it. So he ejects out the back seat, and the pilot then brings it back in and lands it absolutely fine. So the aircraft was safe. So it's a long time since I've sat on an ejector seat, and that was only a shotgun bang seat that you get in a Tucano. But even when I did it in a basic seat like that, you had something called command eject. So when you're a student on very early trips, the instructor controls the ejection sequence. If he deems it necessary to eject, he will pull the handle, which will also fire yours. Now, this to me says that either they don't have that system, which I find unbelievable, or they hadn't set up the ejector seat that way. Now, this is a switch that the pilot does on his walk around and moves it to command or to independent. And why would you leave it on independent eject if you're taking a random 64-year-old civvy? So I don't want to be an armchair flight safety dude, but I think this guy might be getting a bit hammered in their day saw equivalent, because I think he had the ejection seat rigged up incorrectly. And that's why the civvy could take himself out and the pilot was still in there wondering what the hell's going on. So yeah, that's why I think it's an interesting story. Next story then, I'm going to turn to Africa. Africa is obviously a big focus with COVID-19, but let's look at another sort of local, well no, sorry, it's not actually, it's across 8 countries, but a big problem that's going on at the moment, locusts. So, in East Africa at the moment, there has been a big surge in locust numbers. And I read this extract in The Guardian. There's quite a few different papers it's all a similar tone. I'm just going to read from my phone, so please excuse me. In February, 8 East African countries experienced the worst outbreak in 70 years. Exacerbated by climate change and the war in Yemen, The second wave of desert locust is threatening East Africa, with estimates that it will be 20 times worse than the plague that has descended 2 months ago. So they're saying this is the worst outbreak in 70 years, and it's going to be 20 times worse the next one. Real catastrophizing here, real big hyperbole. And it just got me thinking, what's the truth behind this? I don't know anything about locusts. I'm not from Africa. Lesh wasn't available for me to pick his brains. So what's the deal? Because Kenya's had these as well. Is it as bad as the newspapers are making out, or newspapers doing their thing and bigging it up a little bit? There's a great book by a guy called Hans Rosling called Factfulness. And in it, he really he questions the media and says, look, our job is to find facts as people, rational people. Find the facts and make your own judgment on what's going on. So I did a bit of digging and tried to find some facts. The UN's Food and Agricultural Organization was one that I found quite quickly, and this chart that you can see behind me, and get to some reliable statistics if you can. Don't believe the hyperbole that's in the media. Wow, what did we have next? Oh, Elon Musk is the next one. So I was searching defense news, Jane's, places like this, trying to look for some military related stuff. And I saw a few Air Force posts from back in February. Elon Musk has been talking at a couple of conferences in America. And in one of these conferences, he said that the era of the fighter pilot is over. And there was just torrents of stuff on the P-Prune equivalents, and actually the Aviation Press website saying, horrendous, what awful stuff, what's he talking about? He's talking nonsense. I'll give you a sample of one of these. So this is Douglas Berkeley, Executive Director of the Mitchell Institute. I'll explain what that is later. Musk's statement elicited a reaction of disbelief from the Air Force audience. These are men and women who put everything on the line to secure the sky. They know the technological art of the possible. While autonomy is smart to pursue, it has far to go, and it can before it can fly and fight against a skilled adversary. Parking a car autonomously is not something to extrapolate into things that are critical to the defence of a nation. So there's quite a lot of really vociferous attacks on Elon Musk. This alleged statement that the era of the fighter pilot is over, and they're saying, oh, you can't even park an autonomous car in 2 dimensions. How on earth are you going to fight in 3 dimensions? You need a pilot, you need those ninja skills that only pilots have. Now, whilst my ego wants to hear all of this, and I've heard these arguments before about why unmanned drones shouldn't ever come in, it just got me thinking, well, what did he actually say? Also, the fact that the Mitchell Institute is an academic institute that supports the USAF, the American Air Force. It's closely tied to the Maxwell Air University. It's airmen and ex-airmen that populate this place, okay? So they are they're incredibly pro this argument. So they've got their backs up. So I went looking for it, and I tried to find a transcript or an actual video of what Elon Musk said. I couldn't. It might have been a Lindis discussion. It might have been off the record and someone's leaked it anyway because it's Elon Musk. Couldn't find what he actually said in total. However, I did find this longer excerpt. So this is what Elon Musk did say. For the air domain, things are definitely going to be into the locally autonomous drone warfare. That's where the future will be. It's not, I want the future to be this. It's just, this is what the future will be. I can't believe I'm saying this because this is dangerous, but this is what will occur. I think we will still want to retain the authority to damage or destroy anything that isn't an autonomous drone. Keep that authority back so there's always a person in the loop. Now, he did say this. He did say the era of the fighter pilot is over. He's quite arrogant. He is quite bombastic. He will say these things and he won't really care if he gets people's backs up. But deep down, he's very suspicious of AI and autonomy in terms of weapon systems. He's a big believer in Terminator-type scenarios. So he would never advocate this. He's not advocating it at all. He's saying he just thinks this is the way forward. He also said that he thinks the Chinese economy in the next 20 years will be up to 3 times bigger than the American economy. That didn't go down well either. But that's just his nature. He says quite bombastic things. My point is, try and find what the guy actually said instead of a very, very short quote. Even I have been misquoted in interviews that I did when I was in the Air Force. Never trust a journalist. Except if they're running your country, then that's absolutely fine. The last one then, for the holding officers among you, hammer time. Right, I found this fantastic little article about a festival they do in San Juan de la Vega. It's the festival of something to do with John the Baptist. Lord knows how. Long story short, a load of crazy Mexicans get drunk and then put sulfur and chloride mixtures onto sledgehammers and then smash these sledgehammers with this mixture on into steel railway lines, and they explode. And it blows them all over the place. And 43 people got injured. And I just love this article. There's some great videos online. Health and safety be damned. Just insanity. If the Pamplona bull race isn't dangerous enough for you and you don't want to get covered in tomato juice in Italy, go to Mexico. The holding officers, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer because of COVID-19 in the train system. I suggest it's a good holiday destination. Go nuts. And I miss, apologies, it did not kill 43 people. It only injured them. One guy lost a leg. So, you know, if you want to go nuts. You'll be fine. Just take it easy on the sledgehammers. But that is my non-COVID-19 news. Feel free to comment, feel free to upload your own. Let's get the ball rolling. But no COVID-19, I'm utterly sick of it. Okay, I'm done.